These Irish nachos are perfect for anyone celebrating St. Patty's Day at home this year. First things first, we're going to roast some seriously perfect potato wheels. Then I'm gonna show you how to make the smoothest, meltiest, most delicious cheese sauce ever. And we'll throw on a couple more toppings that you didn't know that you couldn't live without. You're gonna start with 4 small russet potatoes. I am leaving the skin on my potatoes because peeling potatoes in my book is the absolute worst. So I just scrub them really good with a vegetable brush, pat them dry, and it's time to slice. Just slice them into 1/4 inch thick rounds here. You want them thick enough to be able to handle a whole bunch of topping goodness, but thin enough to where they can get really nice and crispy in the oven. So you're looking at a thickness right about here. These are just going onto a rimmed baking sheet lined with non-stick aluminum foil. Once you've got all your potatoes cut and lined on your baking sheet, you're gonna give them a drizzle with a couple tablespoons of either canola or olive oil. Then we're gonna come in with about 1½ teaspoon of kosher salt, just sprinkle that right over the top. Potatoes can handle a lot of salt. And then we're gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Come in with your hands and give them a really good toss. You want everything evenly coated in both the oil and the seasoning. Spread them into a single layer. These are gonna go into an oven preheated at 425 degrees, and we're gonna bake these for about 30 to 32 minutes. While the potatoes are baking away, getting golden and beautiful and perfect, we're gonna go ahead and start on some of the toppings. The first topping we need to address is the bacon, one of the most important toppings. I've got 4 slices of thick cut bacon here. No bacon bits. Pan sear your own bacon. I promise you will taste the difference. We're going to lay them in a stack, get a really good sharp knife. This is how I cut a nice perfect dice when it comes to bacon. So I've got the 4 strips cut in half now. Now I'm gonna cut it in half lengthwise. Now we're gonna turn this and we're gonna cut into perfect, beautiful little bacon cubes. We're gonna drop our homemade little bacon bits right here in a skillet over medium-high heat. We're gonna let these cook for about 8 minutes, just until they're crispy to your liking. You're gonna give them a stir every so often. Make sure they're cooking nice and even. I've got a plate here lined with some paper towels. I'm just grabbing this bacon right out of here, leaving some of that grease behind. We're just gonna let it drain. Up next, a homemade cheddar cheese sauce. Homemade cheese sauces are gonna maybe sound a little intimidating at first, but I promise you that this is a very easy to make and you're gonna do an excellent job first try, no problem. We're gonna start with 1 tablespoon of oil going down in a small saucepan. Oh, okay, cool. Just gonna let that oil come to temperature for a second, and then you're gonna add in 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. This is what's going to thicken up that cheese sauce and give it the perfect consistency. So just sprinkle that flour right in, grab your favorite whisk, mix it all together. And now we're gonna start adding in 1 cup of half and half, 1 big splash at a time. You're gonna whisk, whisk, whisk after each addition. Now you're gonna let this simmer on medium-low heat for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then we'll add the cheese. For the cheese, you may only use freshly grated cheddar. It's going to have better flavor and better texture. So we're gonna add in 1 cup of beautiful, freshly grated cheddar cheese. These are the things that make a difference between good food and great food. Just whisk this in, and as soon as the cheese is melted, we're gonna remove it from the heat. All you need to finish off your cheese sauce for your Irish nachos is just a little pinch of salt. Stir it in there. If you wanna be really super duper extra, you can pop on your broiler on, but you're not allowed to leave the oven door. You're gonna watch really closely and wait until you see little bits of brown start popping up all over these potatoes, and then class is dismissed and your potatoes are done. Okay. Okay, look at these beauties. Okay, it's assembly time. So I'm just gonna push these little guys back in closer together and make, you know, like a nacho pile. Now you're gonna top it with your cheese sauce. Just let that cascade beautifully all over across the top of their potatoes. Next, I'm gonna add a little bit of bacon. Now we're gonna come in with the cheese curds, and I'm gonna tell y'all what, if you have never had cheese curds, now is the time to try them. The way that these melt down and they're like these little gooey bites of heaven in combination with the potato and the bacon and the sauce, it's just all things good and glorious. Bring in just a little more bacon. We're gonna really layer that bacon. Another half cup of cheddar cheese. Another layer of bacon. And now we're gonna return this to the oven and we're gonna let it bake for another maybe 5 minutes or so, just until everything's like really melty and totally irresistible looking. In the meantime, I've got just a couple more toppings to tend to. We've got some green onions here. Just gonna take the root off and cut these into nice thin slices. If green onions are too strong for you, you could totally replace this with some fresh chopped chives. I mean, it's so good. Right now, we're just looking at one amazing melty pile of deliciousness. Just gonna sprinkle, you need a little color for these. So if you're not gonna do onions or chives, I highly recommend the parsley. But see how that green just adds like a perfect little pop. And then down in the center, I'm not gonna cover the whole thing with sour cream because my husband despises it. So just a nice little dollop right on the top. Sour cream for those who love it. Just give this a pretty little smear. And garnish that with a green onion or two. And that's your Irish nachos. If y'all are on the hunt for more crazy yummy party food, be sure to check out my appetizers playlist next. Next. Stupid idiot. Okay. Oh, it's so good.